Sword and Shield and Hatchet is the best build in World of Aeternum at the moment. Let's talk about it. I've talked about my Hatchet build in depth in my Spear Hatchet video, so I'm going to put the build on the screen for you to copy here. If you want an explanation on why we take these talents, feel free to check out that video. As for the Sword and Shield, I find this build to be the best in light armor. Upheaval, Leaping Strike, and Shield Bash all offer some sort of burst, CC, disruption, or kill potential. Upheaval is a new addition to New World Aeternum, and it is probably the strongest ability currently in the game. It has massive base damage, can transfer debuffs, and does even more damage to CC targets, which the sword can do quite easily because of passives like Intimidating Rush and Cowardly Punishments. Leaping Strike is our engage and disengage tool and should mostly be used to chase after players that run away. Engaging with this has its pros and cons, but ideally save it for when the enemy is trying to escape from you. Lastly, Shield Rush. This ability staggers players and applies a massive 30% slow for 4 seconds, which reduces the distance players can dodge. Talents like Sturdy Shield and Elemental Resistance also increase our damage mitigation to physical and elemental attacks. The last key passive I want to mention is Empowered Stab, which increases our empower by 30% on heavy attacks. In the combo section, I'll cover how we can min-max heavy attacks for big combos and big damage, and for chasing enemies. When it comes to gearing, us Sword and Hatchet players are insanely lucky. All of our Pre-BIS either comes from the PvP track, open world, or doing some dungeons. Starting with Featherweight, this is simply the best artifact for a light assassin. It makes us tanky and allows us to continuously fight. Another option is the Tumbler Feet Wraps here. I don't think we need a lot of extra damage in this build to make these worthwhile. Sword has a lot of empower built into it already. The 15% fortified bonus is weaker in light armor players because it scales off of our physical and elemental resistances down here in the bottom left here. The only reason you'd want to run these is if you prefer a max damage assassin setup while playing with shirking heals. In my opinion, you get way more value out of playing Featherweight, and is what I recommend. 200 Constitution, 200 Dex, and the rest Strength is going to be your best Pre-BIS stats. A lot of light assassin players like to run down to 150 Con and up to 250 Dex as well. That is another option, but I think right now in this meta, 200 Con as a light assassin is simply just the best option to run. At 200 Strength, you have 10% damage on stunned, slowed, or rooted enemies. At 200 Dex, you get bonus backstab and headshot damage, and at 200 Con, you have that 10% increase to physical and elemental armor. Since we are wearing Featherweight, we also have that extra bonus as well, so running 200 Con with Featherweight is a min-max setup for max armor potential. Now the fun part, actually going out there to start farming your Pre-BIS and artifacts. So on the screen now, you see this website here. It has all of the attributes I talked about. We have the consumables that you want to be using in PvP as Pre-BIS, and we have the perks that we want to prioritize. So we are going to be using a lot of slash conditioning in this build. Per usual, slash conditioning is simply the best perk in the game. We also have all of my weapon skill trees for you to look at as a quick reference, but the big portion here is the gear. So every single piece in this setup here comes from the open world, a dungeon, or is an artifact. So starting off with the Grave Robber's Hat, this is going to be farmed from the Ennead dungeon. You can do this on the normal dungeon. It comes with slash conditioning and enchanted ward put on here, and the third perk that you want to manually put on here at the Gypsum Kiln is going to be the Contagious Upheaval perk. This is how your Upheaval ability is going to transfer the debuffs and do more damage. Once again, slash conditioning on your Featherweight, simply the best perk. For the rest of the slots, we are going to use the doubloon gear at the Well of Fortune and Cutlass Keys. There is no reason to go out and farm or craft other gear for these slots here. This is Pre-BIS. We don't want to be wasting a lot of materials. I went out and got just some random doubloon gear, okay? You don't need a lot of stuff outside of the Grave Robber's Hat and Featherweight to really make this build work. Since we are using Featherweight with a round shield, the most optimal weight that we need to have is a medium head, medium gloves, medium legs, and then lastly, light feet. In my Discord, I have a link to a spreadsheet that shows the most optimal weight class for every single piece of armor in the game. Tanglevine Amulet is going to be the best option to run. It comes with health and thrust protection. Unimpeded is going to be the best third perk to put on here when you have enough chromatic seals and joy matrices. Same with Deep River Ring, Hardy, Purifying Heart, slash damage is going to be your best option. Now, Endless Thirst we cannot get in the game yet. We have to wait for a specific mutated dungeon called Savage Divide. As soon as Savage Divide comes out, you need to prioritize farming the Endless Thirst. This is one of the best artifacts in the game for solo assassin players. For the weapons, the Berserker's Axe and Sword of the Champion are going to come from your PvP track. The way you can get this really early on is by having a hatchet and sword equipped and doing a bunch of PvP content. Once again, this is loot buys, so you need to have these two weapons equipped. And you don't want to upgrade your Sword of the Champion. Just use whatever random perk that you have. For the shield, once again, go to the doubloon plates and Cutlass Keys and pick up a random round shield. And of course, the Stalwart Heartrune of Stoneform, the best Heartrune in the game. When it comes to best in slot, a lot of things are going to change, including the attributes. You're going to drop down from 200 Con all the way to 150, and then you have an extra 50 points to spend for your Dex. 300 dex is going to allow us to cleanse all stun and root crowd control status effects every 30 seconds. Unfortunately, with the magnified pieces that we have to have at 725 gear score, we cannot get 200 constitution. Moving down to the perks here, we have 5/ conditioning, 4 enchanted ward, and 2 flame conditioning. I have found probably the best tanky SNS hatchet build to kill healers, to be super tanky, and to fight every single build in the game. Starting off with the Gorgonite hat, we have enchanted ward / conditioning and contagious upheaval. This is very similar to the Grave Robber's hat, so you probably do not want to upgrade this piece first. Grave Robber's hat will last you quite a bit. We have the featherweight here with / conditioning, and the best in slot piece that I have found so far with the medium gloves is going to be a combination of enchanted ward / conditioning and thorny reflection. This new perk has the potential to be insane in 1v1s. It has a 1-second cooldown, and every time somebody crits you, they are going to reflect the damage back to them by 7%. Similarly, with the light feat, we have flame conditioning / conditioning and hasted vigor. Hasted vigor is one of my favorite perks in Neural Aeternum. It has been growing on me over the last few days because of how fast it makes me in this build. Every time I get a dot on me, I have 10% haste. It's pretty insane for chasing after players as well. So moving on, we have the Hoplite Amulet, health, press protection unimpeded. Similarly with the Tanglevine Amulet, you're probably going to use the Tanglevine for a very long time, and I probably would not recommend upgrading your amulet first. Same with the ring here, right? We have Hardy, slash damage, and Purifying Heart, Endless Thirst, of course, and then lastly, the weapons. The weapons are the biggest, most valuable thing that you have to farm first. Okay, the Gorgonite Longsword and the Gorgonite Hatchet. We have Keen Berserk, Penetrating Backstab, and Plagued Crits on our Hatchet. It's going to allow us to kill healers and fight all of the other players who have Shirking Heals. Shirking Heals is a very popular craft mod in Neural Aeternum, and we want to make sure that we can mitigate fighting that player. On my sword, I have decided to go for a full utility setup. I don't really ever auto attack with my sword. I mostly just use my abilities to dump on them, and then of course Leaping Strike to catch up. So I have decided to put Penetrating Backstab on my sword and then Trenchant Rend and Plague Strikes. Plague Strikes and Plague Crits can stack with each other. So if we are fighting somebody with Shirking Heals, or if we are fighting a healer, they are going to have about 50% less healing, which is insane. Trenchant Rend also has a lot of synergy with Plague Strikes because they both work on heavy attacks. On the round shield, I have decided to craft Enchanted Ward, Vicious, and Keenly Jagged. Once again, since I use my sword mainly for my ability dump, every time I crit with my ability, it's going to apply that bleed onto the target, which means every time we swap to our hatchet, they have that 10% weapon damage bleed from the sword, just ticking on them as we are auto-attacking with the hatchet. It's just more DPS. I like it for a lot of my builds. Same with Vicious, critical damage, can't go wrong with that. And of course, Enchanted Ward, more damage mitigation. So melee weapons don't really have a lot of combos, right? We usually just auto-attack for most of our gameplay, but there is a few tips that I can help you out with. So starting off with the Sword and Shield, we talked about this earlier in the video, but Empowered Stab is going to give us an Empower bonus on every heavy attack. So ideally, when we are fighting somebody, we want to heavy attack into an ability, especially Upheaval. We really want to have that Empower bonus when casting that ability. Also, some other tips include heavy attacking into casting an ability. This will make you launch super far. So casting heavy attack into Leaping Strike is way farther than casting Leaping Strike normal. So if you're ever chasing a healer or chasing somebody else, you always want a heavy attack into a Leaping Strike. It's going to send you super far. If you want quick burst, you want to do a Shield Rush into an Upheaval combo. This is not always the best in slot option because remember, we do have Contagious Upheaval on our armor. This is going to apply the debuffs that we get on us back to the target, so it's going to transfer them to them. But if you do want quick burst, you can always Shield Rush into Upheaval. It is not a bad option. Other than that, there's really nothing else. The last thing I really want to mention is to make sure that you auto attack before you cast an ability. You want to make sure that your attacks are homing onto the target before you cast your ability. Sometimes your abilities will miss. So for example, if you're playing Hatchet, you want to cast your auto attack into Torrents. That about wraps it up. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave them down in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure I covered everything, but if you have another question that I wasn't clear on, please leave it down in the comment section below. Catch you in the next one. Peace, baby. Taking his lunch money. Oh, this guy's really switching. Oh, the bear killed him. I got my berserk now, buddy. What are you gonna do about that? Oh, he just got executed by the mob. Hold on, I can kill this guy actually. I think I can turn this actually. Oh! Choo! Another baby playing with lockup? Like, I'm so... Why? Why? Stop, stop, stop. I gotta remember, it's just a game. It's just a game. Choo!